me. Thank you to Lekha Shravanti Devi for organizing this and making sure everything was set up so beautifully. And thank you for that gorgeous darshan. So sweet. I was never able to be in ISKCON Berlin personally, so now I feel as though I've gotten a chance to go and visit, even just for a few minutes, and be able to hear the sweet kirtan and have nice darshan of Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Marani. So thank you so much for that. Of course, I have to begin by asking for the prayers and blessings and well wishes of all of you, everyone assembled, all of my friends, all the dear devotees, all the lovers of Krishna, that somehow something that I say will be able to touch your heart, make you smile, impact your day positively, help your festival of Shri Radhastami along. And so with that, I pray so much for your kindness, your blessings. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So once again, thank you. I feel as though we can't really begin our journey into the pastimes of Srimati Radharani and her Krishna without just singing briefly Jai Radha Madhava. So I'll sing it really briefly and then we'll get started. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jannavalabha Giri Varadhari Jashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamunatira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jannavalabha Giri Varadhari. Shri Radha Madhava ki jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai. So it's kind of wonderful that we get to create Vrindavan Dham wherever we are, thanks to a lockdown. I never thought that I would be saying that a pandemic would be a blessing, but this is the blessing of this pandemic. We are all somehow here together, celebrating together. Some of us, we've never even met one another. But now, thanks to the internet, we can create virtual Vrindavans in so many pockets of the globe. We can create a spiritual atmosphere wherever we are. And that's the glory of Vrindavan Dham. What really is Vrindavan about? My Guru Maharaj, His Holiness Radhanath Maharaj, likes to say that Vrindavan only works because everyone is focused on making Krishna happy. That's the main goal of Vrindavan. And it is the main goal of any spiritual society, a place where everyone can come together from any and all walks of life, and they can work together, cooperate with one another, and just somehow make Krishna happy through whatever methods that are available to us. So I'd like to commend all of you for coming together, for working together, for organizing together just to make this most spiritual atmosphere, to make the best festival possible, just to make Krishna happy. And there is nothing that makes Krishna happier than Srimati Radharani. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita extensively talks about how Shri Radha is the be-all and the end-all of her Govinda. She is, just as Krishna is the source of all manifestations, expansions, incarnations, all of the above, Srimati Radharani is the source of all counterparts, all consorts. She is the source of everything and anything that is able to give joy to Krishna. So this is how we make Krishna happy. We get to come together and create a festival where it doesn't matter how new we are, how old we are, how long we've known about Krishna. This is it. This is our chance. This is our opportunity. Just by hearing, just by sitting and listening, just by being enthusiastic, we get to perform some of the best service and some of the most intimate service. Because it is said that Krishna does not give himself to just anyone. It says that he reserves the right not to be known to any and everyone. But he opens himself up. He makes himself vulnerable. He exposes himself. He expresses himself to those who have devotion for him. So where he is not to be known to those who spend their lives studying, reasoning, trying to find out all of the logical things about him, he won't make himself known to them. But for those people who may not know everything, for those people who may not be able to reason out scientific correlations about God and the absolute truth and the science of how the atoms split, Krishna, the Supreme Person, best friend of the entire universe, makes himself known to those people who are just simply loving at heart. So now we get the best gift. We get the opportunity to do the best service just by talking about Sri Radha. And the glory of Sri Radha is secretive. It's somewhat confidential. It is often hidden. And we can see her on an altar. But there are so many times when people come to the temple and that's one of the first questions they'll ask. Okay, who are these people? And what's going on this altar? One of them is playing a flute, and then the other one is, she looks really kind and really sweet, but what's happening? And so Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita and so many other of our spiritual teachers say that love, as it is expressed in the spiritual realm, is something mystical, magical, and somewhat completely beyond our understanding, but in the best ways. When we think about loving relationships here, they often can begin with us and how we feel. I like this person because they make me feel wonderful. I like this person because they've taken out time to get to know so much about me. I like this person because they are kind to me. But so much of it has to do with how we feel, how other people make us feel. However, love, as it stands within the spiritual realm, is completely selfless. It no longer begins with me. It begins with, how can I make the object of my affection the most happy, the most proud? How can I do whatever, whenever, however I can, just to give joy to this other person? And really, the thoughts of the self come afterward. So this is kind of like a little bit of a backwards concept for all of us here in this material conditioned realm. But we can allow our minds to go with it. Just for the sake of the lecture, we can go with it. And so Sri Radha, it is said that she not only gives the ultimate joy to Krishna, not only is she the only cause of joy for Sri Krishna, not only is she the full embodiment of happiness for Sri Krishna, but she simultaneously nourishes the devotees. So when we think about love in a spiritual way, sometimes we can wonder, but if I'm no longer thinking about myself, what does happen to me? What does happen to my thoughts, my feelings, my desires, my life, my heart? What happens to me? And the most amazing thing about Krishna consciousness, I've found, is that Krishna takes care of everything simultaneously. He understands the heart of everyone. So not only is Krishna made happy, but Sri Radha simultaneously nourishes the devotees. She is an ocean of compassion, mercy, and kindness. There is a story about a jackal. And it was a small jackal, a young jackal. I'm not even sure what baby jackals are called, but it was that. And this small jackal was being chased by 3 boys. And the jackal was being chased and chased and chased. And then they had chased the jackal into a ditch, into a small hole in the ground. And the jackal was cowering and it was crying out. And my Guru Maharaj says that jackals don't really sound very nice. But this jackal was crying out, screaming out. And then the boys got sticks and they made a fire around the hole. And so they were going to, in essence, burn the jackal out. But I'm sure the jackal would have gotten hurt in the process also. And the jackal was crying out and screaming at the top of its lungs. And finally, Lalita, one of the dear friends of Srimati Radharani, comes upon the scene. And Lalita is a little bit bossy. And she's very fiery. And so she begins to chase away the 3 boys. What are you doing? This is nonsense. Get out of here. And along with Lalita comes Srimati Radharani. And with her own hands, she reaches into the hole and lifts up the jackal. And she holds the jackal. She pets and caresses the jackal and soothes the jackal. Our spiritual teachers say that we are like the jackal. That jackal is like us. We are running from all kinds of miseries. Our Shrimad Bhagavatam, our Bhagavad Gita say that there are 3 kinds of miseries, represented by those 3 boys. And we are caught in this ring of fire, trying to get away from all of these miseries. Whether they are miseries caused by our own bodies and minds, whether they are miseries caused by other people, or miseries caused by natural disturbances, like a pandemic. So we find ourselves running and running from these miseries, trying anything we can to get away from these miseries, but it is impossible. We find ourselves fallen into a deep, dark hole, and there is no escape from the fire. But we have help. We have Shri Radha, and we have her dearest friends who will come and chase away those miseries. And Shri Radha herself, the absolute abode of kindness and mercy, will lift us out of this hole and nurse us back to health, if we let her. What it takes from our side is the sincere crying out. So it takes a little bit of a switch. We have to stop thinking that we can do everything ourselves. We have to remember that as full of life and controlling as we are, no one can control everything. No one can control this world. We can be the best corporate workers that there ever were. We could be the best at our jobs. We could be employee of the month every month. But if a pandemic hits and the entire company is dissolved, it doesn't matter. And then what do we have? What is our identity linked to? If all we are known as is employee of the month, what happens if things outside of our control take away that identity? But if we are able to surrender, just a little, if we are able to remember that it is impossible for us to control everything about life, and therefore we remember that we have to link our identities to something more eternal, then we have something lasting. Then our identities are no longer linked to a job or a relationship or a house or a place. Our identities are linked as servants of the most beautiful, supreme, divine couple. Those gorgeous, supreme entities who are just waiting to come and grace us with their mercy. So, if we can cry out sincerely with that identity that, oh Srimati Radharani, oh Krishna, I am yours and yours alone. That is the essence of my truest identity. But I am stuck here in this place. I need help. I need you. I need your shelter. Then, just like that jackal, Shri Radha herself will approach our pitiful state. She will lift us up out of the miseries of all of this world and nurse us back to health. So now we've gotten to the esoteric understanding of who is Sri Radha. Of course, we understand she is the manifestation of the divine in feminine form. She is the essence of all Shakti, all power, all potency. She is the reason that Krishna's heart is soft and magnanimous and has space for all of us. Okay, but who was she on earth at some point? There are several versions of her birth story. The most interesting thing about Vedic pastimes is that they are not exactly linear. They don't always just occur on a straight line. The understanding is that these pastimes, these histories are eternal, which means that they are always occurring. So if we can extend our thought process just for a moment, there are innumerable universes. Scientists say that there are more universes, not planets, universes. There are more universes than there are grains of sand on every beach on the earth. That's huge, because not just planets, but universes with many planets and stars and galaxies, etc. There are more universes than there are grains of sand on every beach on the earth. And in every single universe, the Lord appears. He promises whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious activity, a rise in irreligion, then at that time, I descend in order to annihilate the miscreants, to save my devotees, to reestablish the principles of religion. I appear millennium after millennium. So not only are these histories and pastimes occurring many times in many universes, but then they're happening again and again and again, millennium after millennium. Otherwise, God would be a liar. And there is one thing that God is not. He is not a liar most of the time. Sometimes, in order to get out of trouble with his mother, he has spoken some lies. But when it comes to promising something to his devotees, God is not a liar. So because these pastimes are happening in many different places and again and again and again, this is why we have several birth stories for Sri Radha. And wherever Krishna appears, Sri Radha will also appear. She cannot bear to be separated from him. In fact, it's said that to annihilate bad guys and to make his devotees happy, that's like a secondary function. The real reason that Krishna descends, that God makes an appearance on the earth, is to have loving relationships with all of his devotees. The queen of which, the crest jewel of which, is Sri Radha. So, one of the birth stories is as follows. Once the father of Radharani, Maharaj Vrishabhanu, who was a great king within the cowherd community. Normally, you don't think of farmers as kings, but in the celestial realm of Vrindavan, even as it was 5,000 years ago, these farmers were rich. They had jewels and emeralds and rubies and diamonds. They had all kinds of things. They had cow sheds, and the rafters, the roofs of the cow sheds had beams of gold inlaid with emeralds. That's just for the cows to live. So we can only imagine how the people were living. So one day, Vrishabhanu, king of the cowherds, was plowing the field with a golden tipped plow. See, there's that wealth again. Even the plows were golden tipped. And so we've heard a similar story in the Ramayana with Sita. The father of Sita, Janak Maharaj, was also plowing the ground with a golden tipped plow. And similarly, the plow struck something, and underneath the soil was a treasure box. And inside the treasure box was a beautiful child, a little girl. In the Ramayana, it was Sita. In this story, the little girl is Sri Radha. And that story is told by Srila Prabhupada and also told by my own Guru Maharaj. And that's one of them. So after finding this beautiful golden colored child, Maharaj Vrishabhanu takes the child home to his wife, Kirtida. In another story, Maharaj Vrishabhanu is bathing in the Jamuna River, a gorgeous river which winds through the lanes of Vrindavan and all of the forests of Vrindavan. And as he's bathing, from upstream comes floating 1,000-petaled lotus. Now, I'm not sure if any of you have seen a regular lotus. So we might be thinking, how can we have 1,000-petaled lotus? Again, I ask you, just extend the thought process for the purposes of these glorious pastimes, just so that we have the inward festival of being able to dive into these pastimes where people had moon towers made of crystal attached to their houses, and cows lived in golden roofed cowsheds. So there was 1,000-petaled lotus, and on that lotus was a little baby girl. And Maharaj Vrishabhanu, he sees the lotus, he catches the lotus, and he picks up the baby girl. And within his heart, he feels such a surge of divine, ecstatic emotion. He feels such paternal love for this baby. He thinks, I just want to be her father. And he takes her home to his wife. A third possibility is that she appears from the womb of Kirtida, the wife of Vrishabhanu. However, she appears from the womb of Kirtida without Vrishabhanu and Kirtida having had contact. So the theme that threads through all of these stories is that in whichever way she appears, in whichever millennium, in whichever universe, it is always somehow miraculous. She is never ordinary. And even still, there is a fourth story about her appearance. In this time of kings and queens, when celestial gods would walk the earth and speak with humans freely, there were mountain ranges, and the mountains could move. According to Vedic history, mountains could fly. So they could move from place to place. They could speak with one another. And if we find it hard to believe, let's just take a moment to also reflect on the fact that there was a Harry Potter series about a boy with a scar who defeated a whole host of like witches and warlocks and wizards. And we all accepted that with no problem. We made like theme parks and we sold toys about it, posters and all kinds of things. So I invite everyone to accept this as well. Let's just go with it. So there was a mountain named Vindhya Parvat. And this mountain was jealous of another mountain. That mountain was none other than the great Himalayan mountain, which we've all heard about, I'm sure. And so Vindhya Parvat, this one mountain, was jealous because the Himalayas had Parvati as its daughter. And Parvati became the wife of Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is the crown jewel, the ornament of all the different demigods. So many people throughout the universe love Lord Shiva, whether for his dancing, or for his mysterious personality, or for his regal bearing, or the fact that everyone runs to Lord Shiva, but he somehow always seems so aloof and renounced. So everyone loves Lord Shiva, and he's wonderful in battle. And as his wife, he has taken Parvati, the daughter of the Himalayas. So Vindhya is very upset. And Vindhya decides that he's going to do lots of penance and yoga and austerity. He wants a daughter who will be married to someone even greater than Lord Shiva. So he does all this austerity and he prays to Lord Brahma, the grandfather and creator of all the universes. Lord Brahma appears before this mountain king. He says, "What can I do for you?" And Vindhya says, "I want to have a daughter who will be married to someone greater than Lord Shiva, someone who can defeat even Lord Shiva in battle. I want to have the best son-in-law in all of creation." Brahma says, "Well, so be it." But then, as Vindhya has left, and he feels happy, Lord Brahma thinks, wait, what did I just do? How is this possible? And the only person who might be able to defeat Lord Shiva in battle, who would be the greatest of the greatest, is Lord Krishna himself. But now I've already promised. I should do something to ensure that my promise holds true. So then Lord Brahma has to do his own austerities. And so now he has to pray that his promise will not be proven false. And so he prays to Lord Krishna and he prays to Srimati Radharani. And he receives the rare vision of Srimati Radharani. And she assures him, don't worry, I will be born. I will appear on earth. And I will be the daughter of the Vindhya mountains, Vindhya Parvat. So Sri Radha, in due course of time, appears as the daughter of Vindhya Parvat. And in this way, there are actually two girls that appear as the daughters of Vindhya Parvat. One is named Radharani. The other is named Chandravali. So they are sisters. So as time goes by, the Vindhya mountain is very happy. He has these two girls. Everything is fine. Meanwhile, in the city of Mathura, there are many atrocities being committed by King Kamsa, who we may remember from Janmashtami. As we went through the advent of Lord Shri Krishna, and we talked about the whole festival of Janmashtami and why Krishna would appear, there was a great prophecy as Kamsa was driving his sister and brother-in-law to their new palace, a voice called out from the sky, "Kamsa, you are a fool. You are engaged in the service of this sister, but don't you understand that the 8th son of this sister will be the cause of your death?" Kamsa gets very upset and wants to kill his sister. His new brother-in-law, Vasudev, stops him. And then Kamsa then proceeds to lock up Vasudeva and Devaki in a jail cell. And mercilessly, he kills all of their babies. 6 of their babies. The 7th is mystically transferred. And then the 8th is none other than Shri Krishna. Shri Krishna appears to Vasudeva and Devaki. They give so many prayers of thanks. They pray in such sweet devotion. And then Krishna is taken across the Jamuna River and is placed in the house of Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Devi. They bring back the girl that was born to Yashoda. And then Kamsa takes that girl and is prepared to kill her. But it is at that moment that this girl, which is a seemingly innocent newborn baby, slips from his hands and assumes a large form in the sky. Regal, divine, possessing many weapons and 8 arms. None other than the goddess Durga. And she chastises Kamsa. "You fool, why have you been so cruel to your sister? The person who is born to kill you has already taken his birth. He is somewhere else. Do not torture your sister and brother like this." And our acharyas say she also gives him some other information. She says, tomorrow, Mahashaktis will appear, 8 of them. 8 Mahashaktis will appear. They will be more powerful than even me. And she tells them that their names will be Radha, Chandravali, Lalita, Vishaka, Padma, Shaibya, Shamala, and Bhadra. These 8 Shaktis will be the most famous women in the entire universe. Whoever possesses them, whoever marries these women, will never know defeat, will always have victory. Kamsa, you are a fool. What do you think you can do? You can't even defeat me. But these Mahashaktis are more powerful than I am. And she disappears. So Kamsa, days later, he enlists the help of a demoness witch named Putana. And we may have heard about Putana before. But now we have some extra details, thanks to our spiritual teachers and acharyas. Kamsa tells this Putana, "Putana, go travel all over the world and kill all of the male children born in the last 10 days. Because he wants to kill off the male child who has been prophesied to kill him. But he also says, go and bring me the female children born in the last 10 days, especially those who look effulgent and mystical, because now he is looking to possess the 8 Mahashaktis that Durga Devi has spoken about." So Putana goes traveling, and they say that she is a witch with mystical abilities who can fly through the air. And she's traveling, killing children and abducting others. And all of a sudden, she flies over Vindhya Parvat. She flies over the Vindhya mountain range and she sees an effulgence. And she swoops down and sees that there are two effulgent babies. They look gorgeous. And so she abducts them. And off she flies. But Vindhya is very upset. And so Vindhya became very upset and worried, and then he ordered Brahmanas to chant special mantras that would weaken this witch. The Brahmanas had special mantra armor. We can just imagine. We have this special Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. These mantras possess mystical, magical abilities. They have healing properties. They possess magical qualities. They can bless the chanter with all kinds of benedictions. They can protect you. So when we chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, let us remember the incredible power hidden in this mantra. Let us take heart in knowing that this Maha Mantra is so named, the greatest of mantras, the Maha Mantra, because it can provide everything that we could ever need. So sometimes we hear that someone is in trouble, they need protection, they want to chant, oh, this mantra, that mantra. Do you have a mantra for this? They have a mantra, oh, I want a good marriage, I need a mantra for that. I need a mantra for like great cooking skills, whatever it is. But the Maha Mantra can award any and all benefits. It is our greatest protection. It is said that the Maha Mantra is the very mantra and the method of worship used by Srimati Radharani and her gopis. And as followers of Srimati Radharani and her gopis, those who know Krishna the best, those who have the highest worship of Krishna, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given this Maha Mantra to all of us. All we have to do is chant it with just a little faith. So, Vindhya Parvat enlisted all of these brahmanas to begin chanting protective mantras. And this weakened Putana. And she got weaker and weaker and weaker. And finally, she dropped the babies in Vrindavan. And so Radharani was dropped into the arms of Purnamasi. Purnamasi is an elderly gopi. She's like the great aunt of all of Vrindavan. Whenever anyone wants to know anything that's going on in Vrindavan, they go and ask Purnamasi. Purnamasi knows the true identities of Radha and Krishna. She knows that they are greater than just a cowherd boy and a cowherd girl. She knows that they are always meant to be together. And she knows all of this because she is none other than Krishna's very own Yoga Maya potency. She is the reason that all of the pastimes go on in Vrindavan. She makes sure that everything happens exactly the way Krishna wants it to. And in some cases, that means that she covers up the understanding that Krishna is God, even from Krishna, just so that he can enjoy his pastimes more fully. Because if Krishna is under the impression that I'm God, I can do whatever I want, why would he run away from his mother in fear as she chases him with a stick? Why would he be afraid? Why would he be crying and rubbing his eyes again and again? Is Krishna just acting? Our teachers say no. He's completely absorbed and caught up in this emotion. At that moment, Krishna really is only 3 and very much in trouble. No longer is he God, the source of all, the creator, the resting place of all, annihilator of everything. He's just a little boy, afraid of being caught and captured by his mother. And this happens because of Yoga Maya. Yoga Maya makes sure that all of Krishna's pastimes happen exactly the way he wants it to. This is Purnamasi. So this elderly Gopi is now holding this baby. And she understands the internal identity of who she really is. And so she gives this baby to King Vrishabhanu. And he goes home. And they both have this gorgeous baby girl. So now we've had 4 origin stories for Srimati Radharani. Kirtida Devi and Vrishabhanu Maharaj are so happy to have this little girl. And as they rock her and sing to her, they realize she doesn't see anything. She doesn't hear anything. She won't react. They're trying everything, testing out her hearing, testing out her eyesight. She won't even open her eyes. Now they're wondering, is she deaf? Is she blind? What is this? She's so effulgent, so mystical. But we fear that there's something wrong with our baby. The great sage Narada Muni pays them a visit. This spiritual traveler of all of the divine realms and everything in between. He is a great sage and he approaches them. He knows within his heart that the supreme, divine, feminine, compassionate aspect of Shri Krishna has finally taken her birth. And so he visits them and says, "Oh, Vrishabhanu, has a child been born to you?" Vrishabhanu says, "Yes, in fact, there has been." And Narada Muni says, "Well, can I see her?" Vrishabhanu says, "Yes, but I fear that she may be blind and possibly deaf. We don't know. She won't react. She seems completely inert. She won't move." Narada Muni saw baby Radharani in the form of just a small infant, her skin like molten gold, her hands and feet marked with auspicious symbols and tinged the most gorgeous color of red. And Narada Muni begins to offer abundant prayers to her. And he offers prayers in seclusion. And then at one point, Vrishabhanu walks into the room and he says, "Why are you offering prayers to my baby? What's going on here?" Narada Muni assures him that all will be well. Just arrange your festival, celebrating the birth of your child like normal. Arrange it as though nothing was wrong. So Vrishabhanu and Kirtida, they arrange an enormous celebration for the birth of Sri Radha. This first Radhastami. And as they celebrate, they invite everyone they know. They invite their very good friends, Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda, who come along with their new son, Krishna. And as they arrive, Vrishabhanu pulls them aside and he says, "I'm so glad that you've come, but I fear that there may be something wrong with my daughter. I don't understand what could possibly be happening. We've tried everything. We've called Ayurvedic doctors. We've called saints, sages. to chant mantras. Even the great sage Narada Muni arrived, and we can't figure out what has happened to our child. As they are speaking, Krishna begins to crawl. And Krishna crawls to the beautiful cradle where Sri Radha is. And Sri Radha, who had not been moving, had not been reacting, suddenly begins to stir. Our great acharyas say that she begins to stir because she can smell Krishna and the unique aroma of his own spiritual body. And she knows, my beloved is here. And so Krishna crawls right up to the cot, the cradle of Sri Radha, and he reaches in and caresses her face. And as he touches her eyes, Sri Radha opens them finally. And they are the most gorgeous color, dark, deep blue sapphire eyes, which happen to be the exact shade of Krishna's complexion. And so this story, because I said these pastimes happen again and again, even this story occurs in two ways. So one way is the way that we just told it. Krishna crawls on his own to see Sri Radha. The other is that Nanda and Yashoda arrive. And they hear that Sri Radha won't move, won't react, nothing will happen. So then Yashoda Devi says, well, let me see her. And she goes into the inner chambers of the house and she puts Krishna down. And then she picks up Sri Radha and she holds her in her arms. And Sri Radha then begins to stir because she can still smell Krishna. But at that moment, Krishna begins to cry because he's been put down by his mother. So Yashoda Devi, with her free arm, picks up Krishna and holds both children in her lap. And as babies often do, when Krishna sees Radha, he reaches out and touches her face. And the moment that he touches her face, once again, her eyes open. She begins to move and react, and she even begins to cry. And Vrishabhanu and Kirtida are amazed and so happy that such a miracle has occurred. And they know then that Radha and Krishna should be together always. There should be no other reality where they are not always together. So that is how Sri Radha appeared. And not only appeared, but then regained her external consciousness. She had no desire to see anything other than Krishna. And so she resolves that Krishna will be the first person that she sees. Not even her parents were able to wake her. That in itself sounds like a real fairy tale. It's like if you gather up all of the best fairy tales and you have the princess and she's kind of in a slumber and then she has to be awakened, and then you have our hero who arrives even though he's a baby and he crawls in all of his divine sweetness, and our princess opens her eyes. And then they have what's called the grain ceremony of Sri Radha. At 7 months, it is a common practice to have a grain ceremony for a child. Before then, the children just have milk, and that's it. But after the grain ceremony, they can begin eating solid food. So at 7 months, they have the grain ceremony of Sri Radha. And once again, her parents invite everyone they know, and Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Devi also arrive. Krishna is there, just a little older than Sri Radha. And it is said that as they offer her first grains and they perform this sacrifice, Sri Radha sneaks her small little hand over and takes a morsel of food from Krishna's plate first. Because even as a baby, she is resolved. The only thing she will do is make Krishna happy first. That is all she is concerned with. Where is Krishna? How can I find Krishna? How can I serve Krishna? How can I give my love to Krishna? That is the essence of Sri Radha's entire existence. In fact, her very name means one who serves the best. This is our goddess. This is the queen of our hearts. This is who we aspire to follow, if we can. This is who we aspire to teach us the ways of divine love. The very thing that makes every spiritual community work. It is nothing but divine love and the absolute intention of everyone coming together just to make Krishna happy. There are so many pastimes that occur with Radha and Krishna and the gopis. But on this day, I thought it would be sweet just to recount those first Radhastami festivals. The festivals that take place on her birth, the ones where Vrishabhanu and Kirtida perform an immense celebration with everyone they know. And Krishna comes and performs his very own miracles. I thank you all so much for having me. And I hope and pray that we can gain just a bit, the tiniest glimpse of the glance of Srimati Radharani, her beautiful bluish glance, so that we can somehow develop a little more of that love, not only for Krishna, but also for each other. Understanding that it takes all of us to come together to make this Vrindavan, this worldwide Vrindavan, this spiritual atmosphere. It takes all of us to make it work. Thank you so much. Shri Shri Radhastami Maha Mahotsava ki jai. Srimati Radharani ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai.
Thank you very much, Acyuta Gopi, for giving this wonderful talk on Srimati Radharani. That was very inspiring and very interesting to hear. Would you be open for the possibility of questions? If anyone from the audience has a question, would you?
Sure.
Yeah. So if anyone of you has a question out there on the internet, anywhere in the world, you can unmute yourselves by pressing that little microphone icon in the left-hand corner at the bottom of your screen. And then you can just ask your question.
I have a question. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So when I was in Barsana, I heard this story about Radharani going to Krishna's house to make food for him, and then going back to Pili Pokhar to wash her hands full of kurkuma, full of haldi.
Turmeric.
That's
Yeah.
what it. That's why it's called Pili Pokhar. If it is true, or if it's just something made out, or I don't know.
So the question is it true?
Is it true or not that she went?
Absolutely, yes, it is.
Yeah, so that's why
it's absolutely true.
That's why it's called Pili Pokhar, because she washed her haldi turmeric hands and it became yellow. So it's true, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
As the story goes, for all of everyone else, what would happen was Srimati Radharani was given a blessing by the great sage Durvasa. And she was blessed that anyone who ever had her cooking would never get sick. They would never have any kind of disease. They would have a very long life. And so immediately after hearing this, Yashodarani, she thinks, well then, Radharani must come and cook for my son. Krishna should have a long life. He should never get sick.
Oh, okay.
So she enlists Radharani to come and cook for Krishna every day. And so one day, as Radharani is cooking, afterwards, Yashoda gazes at her and she thinks, I just want you as my daughter-in-law. And so one of the ways that they would solidify a match was the mother would smear turmeric, that yellow powder spice, turmeric, on the hands of the girl that she had accepted for her son. And in that way, it would be seen that she would be endorsing the engagement of her son and this maiden. So Yashodarani, in great love, smears Radharani's hands with turmeric. And so Radharani is very shy. And even though her heart is thrilled at the prospect that Yashodarani would want her as a daughter-in-law, she gets very shy and thinks, what will my parents think? What will everyone else think if they see this? And so she stops at a pond on the way home and she washes her hands. And her hands, as they wash, the entire pond turns yellow.
Yeah.
And the pond is therefore known as Pilipokar.
Pilipokar. Because my name is Yogesh Mishra. And then we used to, my mother, she used to tell the stories to us before we used to go to the bed. But then again, when we were in Barsana, there was Maharaji Ramesh Baba. He used to tell the same stories. But then again, it just brought it just brought like the doubts if it's true or if it's just made. But thanks for clearing that doubt, though.
No problem. I was listening to a lecture by His Holiness Indradyumna Swami, and he said that within Vrindavan, especially within Barsana, you will find so many stories that are passed down orally. They are called traditional evidence.
And there is another question. There is, when you go to Barsana, there is these two mountains coming together, which is called Khorsankhari, no? So in Khorsankhari, they have Shri Krishna's feet marks. But then again, it's just like I don't want to doubt that, but then again, if it's true or not, those are Shri Krishna's feet or not in Khorsankhari, because it's so stretched that you can't actually walk through it. But
well, if you ever find yourself doubting, I just want to ask a question. Can you see gravity?
No.
But you trust that it works?
Yes.
Same with Krishna.
Perfect.
So whenever you hear your mind, all you have to do is remind yourself that just like gravity, so is Krishna.
So actually they say it in Hindi कि आप भगवान की तरफ जितना भी सोचो उतना कम है, और आप भगवान की तरफ दिमाग नहीं लगा सकते because वो आपकी दिमाग से बहुत परे हैं. It's like he's out of your
he's larger than anything your mind can conceive of.
Yeah, so the human mind. But thanks for clearing those doubts, though. Was an amazing lecture as well. So yeah, nothing else. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? No one else. Speak now.
So we've just asked our studio audience or our temple audience they don't have any questions, but they have been very appreciative of your talk, and they, I think they would be glad to hear another lecture sometime in the future from you.
Sure.
I'm speaking for everyone here on the Zoom meeting. That was really fantastic, and it was great that you took the time to enlighten us with this wonderful talk. Thank you very much. And thanks to all the viewers and all the people who've joined us on Zoom. We have made a recording of this. We will be putting it on YouTube. And so you can also share it with your friends if you like.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Jai Shri Radhe.
Jai